we're like humans, and we don't even know what a human is.
Yeah, we pretty much do know what a human is.
I was going to say, I mean, if you really take the time, we actually kind of know exactly where we branched from for about 6 million years ago. So they got a pretty good handle on it. Go check it out.
Okay. A pretty good handle sort of still leaves a little room for, wow, look what we've discovered that changes the whole idea of what we thought was true.
We define what is a human. That's the taxonomy.
DNA kind of locked that one in too.
We define it by defining a species. What we don't know is between one and the next exactly where it is, because there's no perfect
speciation.
The speciation shift happens over probably 10,000 generations or something.
And what does it mean? What does the speciation between Homo sapiens and Homo erectus mean?
I had a question for you, Phil, and for the panel, if you guys could answer it. Do you believe that religion, just as a concept, is a natural result of human society?
Yeah.
No, it predates society, actually. If you look under anthropology of religion, you've got ancestor worship, which probably derives from us having dreams of our relatives and not knowing what dreams were. We've got animism, we've got shamanism. All those things are sort of like precursors to what we know now as religion.
It's a very interesting thought.
I think even Native Americans in North America is a pretty good snapshot where they were not heavily influenced by a lot, and it was very spiritual, animal driven, very
That's still animism, basically. I mean, now a lot of them is practice Christianity also, but pure.
One of the things that I learned in my experience was that shamanism in Native American cultures, especially in the Western North American Native Americans, they were women. They were maternal society. And
that's where I live at. I'm in the Northwest. I'm in the Pacific Northwest, actually. I'm still in California, but that's where I'm at. And I live by 6 major rivers. We have 6 or 7 tribes around us, so I totally got to.
Yeah, definitely.
Like the shamans in those cultures were women.
But take into account that this affair is continuous. Because I'm from Mexico and we still practice shamanism.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm struck by the statement that it's women. I mean, just because it doesn't have to be women.
No, it doesn't have to be. But she pointed out that aspect, and I totally can read that. Yes, it is a different frequency. Yeah. It's hard to explain unless you have this initiations.
I think one of the weirdest arguments I kind of hear from a lot of religious people, it kind of comes arrogantly, is, well, why is there still monkeys if evolution's a thing? And it's oh boy, well, that's like me trying to understand the ins and outs of the Bible. I don't, because you guys haven't studied, I guess, and I don't study the Bible, so you got me on that one too.
It's a losing argument.
Someone who says why are there still apes just does not understand evolution properly. So.
No, it's like the arguments that people make for flat Earth.
Can we make humans out of the other monkey?
Say that again.
If you give them about 7 million years, probably, yeah.
We should be able to accelerate that,
here's the problem. If you're trying to make evolution today, right? If you take today's primate chimpanzees, for example, they're not going to become humans because there's too much competition, because everything smarter than a chimpanzee is already here competing with them. So
even
if you got rid of everything smarter than a chimpanzee, it probably would follow about the same evolutionary path.
There would be a niche for them to fill.
Yeah,
there is no niche.
Right now we outcompete them, so they're kind of probably stuck where they are, because I mean we are all in an interactive ecology. So
Hollywood plays a part in that with Planet of the Apes.
Yes, we can always hope for that. I love those films.
I love them.
My simple answer for that question of why are there still apes or why are there still monkeys is they evolved from apes and monkeys too, right? Like at the same time. But that's not always easy to explain to people for them to accept, at least.
Yeah, the primate human ancestor is about 7-8 million years back. The common ancestor.
Yeah, it's like trying to say that monkeys haven't evolved for the last 6 million years. years. Like, if you trace them back, they were different too. They have changed.
Right. Well,
they didn't evolve into humanoids. They evolved into what they needed for their environment.
But that right there, they have evolved to the point where they are. They're not evolving as we can see it. I mean, the idea of 1,000 years, 10,000 years, 1,000,000 years to our idea, our conceptualization as human beings it's undoable. We don't.
We're still evolving. We are still evolving.
Yeah, we are. We have vestigial, like our little toe. It's useless. Or there are things that we have, like our gallbladder. There are things that we have that are vestigial from whatever it is that we needed before that we don't need now.
If we are in this evolution process, it seems to be clear that we are going to become machines, right? So once the machines are out there in the universe, are they going to be thinking of us as gods?
Yeah, we might be in the most incredibly dramatic and swift period of evolution that the planet has ever seen.
There's a thing out there for it's kind of a eugenics idea with dogs, because dogs' life expectancy is a lot shorter. We can actually see it, and there's an exercise where you can take, say, good dogs and or a good dog gets put in a really bad situation, like a really bad household or something. And it'll take 4 or 5 genetic lines to get those bad behaviors out of that dog, and or vice versa. You can take a really bad dog into a really good situation, and throughout a few different generations, you can basically breed out that bad behavior, and all in a short, kind of weird, kind of slow scale. Watch evolution kind of happen, because their lines and their life is very short, and you can watch it.
We don't evolve a bad dog.
There are Russian studies that have been going on for about 40 some years now, I think, where they have taken wild red foxes and domesticated them. And of course, the selection would be the humans selecting the kinder ones, kind of a thing. So that's an example of sort of forced evolution, but it's interesting that they take on more dog-like physical features as well as the behavioral features.
Could we be that? Could we be that from another species in the universe?
We can totally be that.
They get all plump. They get all plump and overweight as Americans.
For it. We've got lots of evidence for us coming from precursors on this planet. There's no evidence that
you just say that there was a missing gap.
There's no missing.
No,
I mean we know an awful lot now.
We're still in between the maize and the sweet corn right now.
Somewhere in the evolutionary, it could happen that an alien popped down and gave us an obelisk.
What's really bad is if you want to throw an evolutionary trait to a country, sad as it is, I think you could give America its gut, its fat, its big old bellies. If anything, I think America's evolutionary added to the world is gut, is obesity, as sad as that is.
It is sad. And I'm guilty of that too. It is the love of sugar. So
to entertain this stuff though, and to even have these conversations, this is where I even I have biologists who are on the fence about a creator, and I'm just well, wait a minute, you had to have these, you've been forced to do classes on this stuff. Were you just skeptical the whole time? What were you doing?
Well, are you saying that evolutionary biology is incompatible with believing in God?
Not exactly,
but for some it is. Yeah, some of them. I know there was a guy who used to work with Hugh Ross with Reasons to Believe podcast, and he was a young Earth creationist who worked as a geologist, which is something you're not supposed to be able to do. But he did. He would do his geology job. He was working for one of the oil companies trying to find oil, basically. Made good money at it, but he would ignore his creationist beliefs when he was working because that wouldn't find him oil.
You're talking about Kurt Wise, right?
I don't remember the guy's name, so I don't know.
Well, it's definitely possible for an atheist for someone to leave their religion based on evolution. There's plenty of scientists who believe in evolution and also believe in God, and it's not incompatible at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it isn't. You're right. There are a lot of people do it, and there's cognitive dissonance that some people carry.
What is incompatible, though, is the scientific method with religion. You cannot run the same. You have to go to faith.
What is incompatible?
That was what I was saying earlier about
what is incompatible is when factual things don't match. Right?
Exactly. So that's why we are
specific things like flat Earth, round Earth.
Yeah, that's why we are.
No, I don't know if that's true. That's true because nobody who argues that comes up with that idea themselves. If you look online or you see flat earthers that are on social media, they didn't come up with it. It's not something that they came up with. It's something that they parrot like anything else.
Yeah, but if they learned it from religion.
The thing about scientists who can believe in religion, they have the capacity. Some scientists have no capacity for that. Some religious people have no capacity for science. There are people who sort of have made the idea that they can meet in the middle.
LA, I got a little gem to drop for you. Here's a name for you. What is his name? Glenn. Oh, Voldemort. Voldemort is his last. Volmamor. Glenn is his. What is his name? Gosh dang, I can't believe I'm forgetting it. But he was.
Guys, can I interrupt? I have to say goodbye to you guys, and I really appreciate this mind. You guys are like so cool. They really make my night. And I just wanted to ask you guys if you could, all of you, give me like your best logic for debunking the flat earthers. I would love to hear you guys talk that. Good night to you, all of you, and God bless you all.
I have the best. There's just one thing. There's a pendulum at the observatory in Griffith Park. Game over.
I'd say take an airplane ride and look at the curve.
So
if you're up to 30,000 feet, look at the curve.
Tides. You cannot, and predicting the tides for a year out, you cannot and will not do it at all on a flat Earth. It is absolutely impossible.
Were you trying to think of Wilbur Glenn Voliva?
Wilbur Glenn Volmort. Thank you very much.
No, Voliva.
Voliva. There you go. Voliva. I was getting that wrong. Voliva. So in 1850s or so, he purchased Zion, Illinois, and the first religious radio station that was broadcasted. And he started offering $5,000 for proof of basically curvature, exactly what these guys are spouting on this app out here. It's the exact same playbook from the 1850s. He ran a huge scam. He scammed the entire church. He scammed everything. And on his deathbed, he made crazy confessions and confessed it all, that he was scamming everybody. He knew the earth was a curve. He knew the earth was a globe. And it was a gigantic scam he was running. He owned Zion, Illinois, had the first religious radio station in America, if that tells you where any of modern day flat earth comes from.
And that was 1906.
Interesting.
So I think he started in I think he died in 1906. I think he started.
No, he died.
I came up with an idea for a T-shirt that I know would sell.
Definitely, the story's right.
I came up with an idea for a T-shirt that I knew would sell, that I couldn't do it ethically. Barack Obama was president, that I created a shirt for the right wingers that said, "Enough of this abomination."
So
that would sell. Yeah, that would sell.
Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question of the host?
Yeah.
Where are you on the Richard Dawkins scale?
6.
I'm a just below a 7.
Well, I mean, it's a scale from 1 to 7, so.
Yeah, but I'm at like a 6.9. I'm at a 6.9.
Absolutely no creator at all with that. Is that 7 no creator?
Yeah. 7 says you're absolutely know that there's no creator, and 6 is the agnostic atheist position. It says
I'm a 6.85.
Yeah, I don't use the decimals, so I'm probably I'm similar to you, but I'm trying to be true to the scale. It's just real numbers, so it's So
one last question.
Yeah.
What's your definition of atheism?
The way I use it is I do not have enough reason to believe there is a God, but I do not at an absolute know that there is no God.
Awesome.
Cool.
I ask that of people that I've come across that I've never interacted with before that are atheist.
Yeah, that's what it means to me. I mean, like as we said before, I don't know if you had heard that some people use the definition of atheist means disbelieve, means that you don't believe a God exists, and you can.
Oh, that's the basic.
You can read the word that way too, but it's not the way I use it.
Yeah, that's the basic.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a atheist with a philosophical path that I follow.
Philosophical path?
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. Thank you, Ellie. You're just throwing roses tonight. I appreciate it.
I think it's crazy that you knew about old boy from Zion, Illinois. Not very many people know who that is and what that's about.
I'm sitting in front of my computer.
Thank you. I tried to turn mine on. Mine wouldn't plug in. I was like, fuck, I'm going to have to go off the top. I couldn't remember.
All right, say it one more time.
I thought I was going to have to dig out the Harry Potter books.
Say which one more time? Name?
Yeah, the name.
Wilbur Glenn Voliva.
How do you spell that last name?
Voliva.
You loading the clip for Flat Earth Debates, LA?
Yeah, my algorithm is stuck on Flat Earth.
Dude, I've been there for the last 3 weeks. That's why I'm here too. I swear, dude, I stumbled on it right, and what a roller coaster!
Oh my god, it's hilarious.
Isn't it kind of like a waste of time to debate flat earthers?
Yes, yes, and yes.
Well, if you want to know where all the anti-Semitism is on this app, just head on over there and you'll get a good, healthy dose of it.
Oh, dude, seriously. Who knows?
Damn flirts. Oh.
Basically, the root of it. If you really dig around real hard and listen real good, you'll find out who's really at fault.
The root of flat Earth belief is anti-Semitism.
No, not necessarily.
No, but if you really dig around and ask them who's at fault, it's the Jays. It's the Jays. The Jays did it.
Made the Earth flat.
They're the ones hiding.
They're the ones keeping the truth
keeping the secret. Oh, sure. Why?
Yeah. And why are they keeping the secret?
Yeah.
Because what do you think the Jays? What do you think they think the Jays are taking? All their money.
Because they want people to really like J.J. Abrams' Star Wars.
Right,
that makes more sense than reality.
Let's not talk about anti-Semitism. How about that?
The only way you want to talk about that is to not talk about it, right? And when it comes to that, or the people that really, really are on that, I don't. I steer clear. It's just.
I have a question.
Can I just tell you guys one thing about this topic that really kind of drove me crazy? And I was like, but then it was like this really great thing. I don't know if anyone here lives around LA, Los Angeles, but there's a museum in West Hollywood, the Museum of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
They have an exhibit there, and it's called Jews in Hollywood. and the thing about this exhibit is that it sort of really explains like how ridiculous it is to be like, in the not know of how that is a real thing. Jews were like, they couldn't do anything, so they created this thing. Go see it. That's all I'll say. Go see it. It's amazing. It's just ridiculously amazing.
These were successful people.
Yeah.
Did a good thing. I mean, had made a good business.
So if someone told you, hey, there's a exhibit about Jews in Hollywood, would you think that was a thing that was like a positive thing about Jewish people?
Well, kind of off of the side shoot of this is that I don't
do that myself.
I don't want to push that because I'm an atheist that I have that worldview either. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have any hate, ill will towards anyone else's beliefs. They can believe whatever they want to. That is not a thing. I just want to be entitled to my beliefs. You know what I mean? And I don't want to be misconstrued because I don't. You know, I don't believe you, but I don't hate you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of don't want my economic policy to be based on some mythological idea of, truth and reality.
Come on, astrology.
Any of it.
Let's bring back Nancy Reagan to make some real.
If the Fed starts using tarot cards, I'm going to have a problem.
Because, I mean, it could be really easily that, like, you're either with us or against this type of stuff. And it's like, it's not necessarily that way, but it could be taken that way. And even the story can be, and the narrative can be driven that way, too.
Yeah, both ways, right?
No, we'll stay away from that. Stay away from that.
So I have a question. I'm probably the only believer on the panel right now, if I'm not mistaken. Is there anyone else who's a believer, or I'm the only one?
I think you're the only one.
I think you're the only one now. Yeah, we've
all right.
gone through 3.
And you're welcome.
How'd that happen?
Thank you. So I guess my question would be, you guys obviously see no God in the universe. What would the universe have to look like, or what evidence could conceivably prove to you a creator or a God?
Can I answer that? Could I answer that?
Yeah, sure.
The universe would have to look exactly the way I wanted it to look. And it could not vary from my idea of what perfection is.
That seems like
my idea of perfection is, and I have to admit, my idea of perfection is extremely flawed in an entirety of a universe.
Why would it have to be your version? And
yeah, that's
it. Because that would be how I would believe.
Oh, okay.
For me, it'd have to be something extremely drastic, like actually flat Earth, where we have a firmament, we have a dome. There would have had to have been something that created that. Like, there would have to be something extremely definitive, and our science doesn't necessarily point to that. It's definitely chaotic out there, as far as I can tell.
But wait, I would want to go to that point about the world would have to look exactly the way you would want it to look for God to believe. Wouldn't you say that's just as unreasonable as like a religious person saying, the world looks exactly the way it is because of God and no one can prove me wrong otherwise. It's exactly how I want it. Like, isn't that just as unreasonable and irrational?
I think that's the same unreasonability that I'm pointing to.
Got it. So do you have a reasonable measure that would convince you of God?
When somebody makes something, there's fingerprints. Where is his fingerprints? If God made something, there would be his fingerprints on everything. And I just don't see any fingerprints. That's the best way I could explain it.
His question is, what would it take? So what it would take for you then would be fingerprints, but you're going to have to define that a little bit clearer.
Aside from what I was saying about it looking exactly, that if it varied off from any idea that I had of what it should look like, it would have to be an overwhelming consensus that would make me wrong.
Yeah.
So the consensus of authority, you're saying?
Yeah. A consensus of
but that's not logical, because
undeniable
at one point
reality.
Most scientists were creationists, and at one point, right? So that's not really a rational measure.
Wait, say that again?
You're saying the consensus of authority of like scientists would convince you that God is real?
No, not at all. Of reality, a consensus of reality. Like there are things that we have a consensus about reality, right? I mean, the sun's going to rise in the east and set in the west, right?
LA, correct me if I'm wrong. I think you may be saying, if you found a huge contradiction to the current consensus or to your consensus, or is that not what you mean? That's what would maybe be the closest to proving God to me, would be a extreme contradiction to my current understanding of how the universe, humanity, life, everything works. that can't be explained in any way other than something that is fantastical or theological. And
God is by nature supernatural, right? And that's the separation that I have. That's the thing that I will not accept. I mean, I'm not going to take supernatural explanations for things when there are rational explanations for them. If there was a thing that was supernatural by nature and undeniable and unexplainable, and it was a consensus, a universal consensus that I would have to accept as supernatural, then that would be it.
Well, I guess it would be like consensus up to who? Because, I guess there was at least like a universal consensus about aspects of human nature that secular humanism has kind of flipped on its head. So like free will, objective morality, the existence of a spirit, a soul. These are things that to some people is clearly obviously true, but to secular humanists, it's also obviously true that those things don't exist. So it's like whose reality? It's like almost objective to whatever reality you're looking at it, right?
So my big problem is it seems like whenever that religious book, whatever book it is that you subscribe to, whenever that book gets closed and you pick your head up into reality, you do not see all of that grace and all of that love and all of that you don't see that. All you see is if there was really a creator out here that had the betterment of us in his mind, there wouldn't be the suffering that we see on this planet.
Why? I mean, why is that necessary?
Yeah.
Because
why is that necessarily true? I should say. Couldn't there be a creator that doesn't care about us?
Right.
I guess, but that's not what's in those books. That's not the way those books are written.
That's not what's in those books. But yeah,
that's what I'm saying. When those books close and you look up into the real world, that's not what's going on around us.
Yeah,
I would definitely argue against that. And I'm a Christian, and in my book, at least, it tells us that the life of a Christian is to suffer. It's that the world is in bondage to sin. The world is in bondage to have all this suffering. And the suffering of today isn't going to compare to the glory of the afterlife. So nowhere in Christianity is it making a claim that we should expect a perfect world with no suffering.
Well, my argument to that on both sides is that there's the definition of what God is from human beings. There's the definition of what God should be. And like I was saying about how, I would have to have this thing as a prerequisite for me to believe in God, is that I would have to have a world that met my expectations. So to believe in God, I would have to have God meet my expectations, and he absolutely doesn't. Until I recognize that God doesn't, fit into my expectations, do I have the ability to feel the existence of something greater than myself.
But it's certainly
I'm not Christian, but aren't you supposed to give yourself to God? Isn't that kind of the thing, rather than you having God conform to what you think?
Yeah, but give yourself to God for what? If you're only giving yourself to God so that you be fulfilled, so that you be in a universe or a world that meets your expectations, that if you give yourself up to God so that you can meet some pains, you can really know what suffering is. Then,
but you obviously know, like, it's logically possible for a God to exist and for your expectations of the world to not match up to what that God created. Like, it's at least logically possible, right?
I wouldn't say logically possible, but as a human being, I have needs beyond what logic I give expectations to.
I know I would say possible, but not logically.
Yeah.
That's my answer to that.
Yeah.
Possible, but not logically in my mind.
I truly believe that. I'm baffled. I've never heard an argument that, kind of self-centered and illogical, in my opinion.
Well, it's a unique opinion, I think. So, for me, it would be I'd have to be seeing supernatural stuff that breaks the laws of physics. I would have to see people coming back from the dead and arms grown and things like that.
Okay.
All this, tapping on the head, the lupus cures, and all this stuff, and similar types of things that we cannot explain, and
I mean, you can't act like
adequately test.
The Bible is matter of fact. There is a few things in there that are a matter of fact that you cannot confirm, like, at all.
Yes, exactly. So
one point I want to make too, if that's okay, Sog. I hope this kind of helps you out or answers your question a bit. There isn't obviously there's no church of atheism. There's no dogma to atheism. So, I know you brought up some points of kind of the changes in scientific theory that have taken place over the past century or half century, however long. There's not like I don't have a list of scientific theories that I believe in, and that this is what I follow and what my life revolves around, or what my conception of the universe relies upon. I just am continuously learning and evolving, and science does too, and that's what I love about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. I don't think I said anything against that, though.
No, you didn't. But it was.
Well, you kind of do when you present yourself as a someone who represents dogma.
Sog, I'd also like to kind of point out too that do you know how rough it would be as an atheist with these kind of views to get into a very heavy religious room and try to have this conversation by yourself with 5 or 6 heavily religious people with these views? Do you know how tough that would be?
Listen, I've met intolerant Christians. I've met intolerant atheists. I don't think intolerance is limited to any one group.
I just said tough. I didn't say it would be impossible.
I've done that because I studied for quite a while in sort of a cultural anthropology sort of way, and I would tell people that yes, I'm an atheist here. And you just have to keep it friendly and do a little bit of, just the watching and listening kind of thing, and not sit there and be aggressively.
Do you know how many atheists are in the House of Representatives?
Probably a lot more than we know of.
Do you know how many would admit to be atheists?
0
or were elected as atheists, who are elected as
5, maybe.
I mean, what percentage of the U.S. population is Christian just because it's convenient?
That's awesome.
To get elected, yeah.
Well, there's also the argument that a vast majority of people who identify as atheists, if you really question them on their beliefs, they're really just deistic theists who are non-religious.
Yeah, what I'd like to see, it's like we've got the Pew Research about the nuns, right? The NONES group. I'd like to see that broken down a lot more, because we don't have a lot of detail of what the nuns are. Because some of them are going to be people who say they're religious, or they're not religious, but they have a relationship with Jesus. Some of them are going to be like pagans, and some of them are going to be like, I just don't bother with religion, so I don't even think about it. And some of them are going to be atheists. I think the atheists.
You said some nuns say that they have nothing to do with religion in the research?
No, in the Pew Research.
Nuns, NONES.
NONES.
Oh, my bad.
It really just, initially when they created that label, it just meant not affiliated with a religion. But it didn't mean not necessarily atheist. Because the nuns were like 24% last time I looked, and the atheists are still about 7 or something like that.
The percentage of people that actually ascribe to the new atheism that happened in the early 2000s, it's exceedingly narrow.
But here's the thing: there's a generational shift happening. I think those numbers come from 2014. And I haven't seen Pew do. Break that. They've started to break down the nuns a little bit, but I haven't seen one in the last 4 years. And the Gen Zs, and to some degree the Gen Ys, I guess, religion is going down significantly from what used to be 90% maybe 40 years ago to probably around 60%.
Dog, do you think it's problematic to have less Christians?
Problematic? No, it's a good.
No, Sog. I was at Sog. Sorry.
Do I think it's? Wait. Do I think it's? Wait.
Do you think it's problematic to have less Christians?
I think it's problematic to have less religious people in general. I would say. But not necessarily religious people, but people that ascribe to certain, like, the things associated with religion. So here's like my view on it. Even though there are a lot of people who claim that they're religious in America, they still kind of prescribe to the less secular humanist ideas of, if you pull them on free will, if you pull them on objective or subjective morality, they kind of side with the secular humanists on things, and they're kind of just religious only in name. If you kind of question them on their beliefs, they're a lot more secular than you would think.
How do you categorize the evangelical portion of Christianity that sides with Donald Trump?
Oh man, well, those groups of people, I don't even like them. So, like, they're obviously like fundamentalists, like,
You scored a point here, there, Sog.
I'm an Orthodox Christian, so lots of the issues that you guys have with Christianity is really with evangelical Christianity of the past 100 years. Orthodox Christianity is very different from modern day Christianity.
Well, you could go back to the Crusades and whatnot too. The Christians are not white gloved here at all.
There's no shortage.
There's other events too that they are absolutely 100% responsible for. It's basically what modern day Muslims are catching the reputation for now is. Yeah. More or less what Christians were doing then, and it flip-flops and changes, and that's why if you even dig into it, I know it's got to be at least 90 or 95% of all war on this planet is religious related.
It's high, yeah.
Like, tell me a war that was the only one I could think of. Possibly, you might be able to stretch out of that as a civil war. That's it. But I'm sure you could tie in some of this in there too.
There's wars over territory.
Because they use their religion to make slavery.
But yeah, religion is a big one.
If you really think about it, Sog, every war on this planet is tied to religion.
But wait a minute, first off, I don't deny that lots of wars are attributed to religion, but I would say lots of wars are falsely attributed to religion. Like, would you say, like, the wars in the Middle East with America in the early 2000s were based in religion? I wouldn't say so. I would say those were based on, like, the decisions of America in those regions.
Those
like
are definitely radical fundamentalists. Those are definitely radical.
Have you seen George Bush's comments on his memos, on his war memos? That was a bit of a crusade for him. So there's quite a bit of religious background.
There's definitely religious symbology or like undertones to it, but the reality behind it is we're not going to those countries trying to spread Christianity. It's not a Muslim versus Christian war. It's a neocon versus, like, basically underprivileged, like, Middle Eastern war. That's what it really is.
Survival, and
but they're not decimating Christian countries, though. I can tell you that.
Do you know what's going on with, like, the bullshit? Like, you know what? I wouldn't even get into that because the chat might get flagged.
It's a quagmire.
Yeah, let's try to avoid that.
But the reality is that
I wasn't even trying to drag it there either.
We didn't put sanctions on Iraq that led to 500,000 people dying because we were trying to spread Christianity, or we need to stop their Muslim beliefs, or they hate our freedoms. That's like propaganda used to justify it in the media. It's not a religious war.
Not necessarily that it's just that it's tied. They're all tied. It's all tied together is what I mean. It's not separate from that stuff. It is integrated in it.
Yeah.
I just disagree.
That's fair. I don't, because, like, it's not.
But when America enters a war in Iraq,
it's not non-religious people fighting.
When we enter a war in Iraq, we're not saying, "Hey, you have to, like, be evangelical Christian in order to fight in this war." You could be Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist to fight in the war. It has nothing to do with religion. It was obviously they hijacked religious, like, values and symbols to get the support of certain people, but that's obviously propaganda. It has nothing to do with religious differences.
It gets deep. I think it's very heavily associated, and I would see why you would want to press back from that. But I personally just think they're heavily intertwined together, and it's and it has been for a very long time.
Really,
like I said,
it's a matter of fact. I have no issue with conceding that Christians have started many wars over the years, but like the wars that we've been involved in the past 20, 30 years are not religious wars. They have nothing to do with religion, as a matter of fact.
I think that's a bit of an overstatement, but
not
enough of a scholar to really.
It's an overstatement because it doesn't take into account.
Do you know what this country turned into after September 11th? I don't know if you're old enough to remember, but it was an absolute hate pot. It was disgusting.
Yeah.
I completely agree. And I'm saying, I'm literally saying that religion was hijacked as a way to basically propagate support for these for this war. But the neocons behind this, the neocons behind this are not trying to promote Christianity in the region, or they're not saying, oh, we need to stop the Muslims. The Muslims hate our freedoms. It has nothing to do with that. That's sipping the Kool-Aid of what the neocons want us to believe about the war.
If you took religion away, do you think there'd still be a problem?
Absolutely. We would still be putting sanctions on it. We were putting sanctions on it, of course. So my answer is yes, of course. Without religion, that there would still be a conflict there, without a doubt.
Do you realize, Sog, that the anti-Islamic phobia is the right word, but worry is very dominant among strong evangelicals.
Yeah, I have no doubts about that.
Okay.
Yeah, bigotry exists in all groups.
Well, it's not just bigotry. It is fear of a competing religion taking over.
And it's a completely irrational fear. No one is looking. Yeah. The reason people did not fly planes into the World Trade Center because they want to bring Islam to America. It's an irrational fear on the part of evangelicals to hate on Muslims for that. That's not why we're involved in that war. It has nothing to do with religion. Obviously, it's been hijacked, and unfortunately, there's lots of Islamophobia for that reason. But it's clearly a strategy from the neocons, and the neocons clearly won with that to get people talking about Muslim versus Christians when it's really just a matter of our vested interests in that area and putting sanctions on certain countries for I can't even say why I think that is, but yeah.
You do realize that George Bush was evangelical Christian, though, right?
Yeah, I have no doubts about that.
Yeah.
Follow the money. It doesn't matter whether or not you've convinced people that it's a religious crusade.
Even if you're still in it,
money involved, then the money will flow toward the righteous cause.
I was going to say, if you're in it for the money under the flag of behind the pretense of religion with you, that stands to make an issue. And if you are, or you're trying to, you're trying to say that even recently, the stuff that happened last year in October in Israel was not religious related. You're not really. It had nothing to do with even Christianity. It was absolutely radicals from one side or the other that were, you know what I mean? That was absolutely, and the whole Palestine thing is religious. Every bit of it is.
Well, no, this colonialism.
Well, not every
also.
Bit of it.
Yeah, it's more of a reaction to 100 years.
It's religious and colonial.
But that's the part they're never going to get over. That's the part they're never going to get over. They can negotiate land. They can negotiate everything else. They are not going to negotiate religious beliefs.
Right. And
religious beliefs are absolutely the fulcrum to the idea of how do I survive this?
But the idea that if you eliminate religion, that none of these issues are going to exist. You don't think the Palestinians and the Jews in Israel are going to fight if all of a sudden religion isn't involved? I don't believe that. I fail to believe that.
Then it's a land dispute, though. Then it's a land dispute, and that's it.
Yeah. Let's get off of this, please, so we don't get fired.
No worries. Really, is it that bad? Is it that bad?
I don't know, honestly.
Oh, okay, sorry. No worries. Apologies. I just feel like it to not associate those, or at least give credence to or thought of. It's not. it's a lot of because how much of the planet is religious? I mean,
well, I'll tell you one thing that Islam is going to become the dominant religion, estimated around 2060 now. I think is current slope. So things are going to get. I expect us to. Well, I won't see it, but I expect there to be religious wars before 2100. So there we go again.
That's a scary other.
But just that statement that you made alone, that can be seen as very Islamophobic. Like, oh yeah, the rise of Muslims. Now we have to worry about like religious wars.
I've been in meetings with Christian Tea Party groups when I was first interacting with people to understand how people believed and what they believed. And trust me, there's an awful lot of hatred going in the other direction. So to me, it's like the Middle East, where both sides are sort of so far gone into convincing themselves that the other sides are dehumanized others. That the sad part is I don't know how we're ever going to get out of it. So no, it's not against one side or the other. It is just a hatred of the cycles of violence, frankly.
So I got a question that I asked earlier. Is there any event that could happen on Earth that would definitively tell you that there isn't a creator, or that your religious views may not be the right ones? Is there an event, or is there something that would tell you definitively with the same logic you've been using? Is there anything that would tell you that, or are you just not even looking for it and never thought of it?
That's a good question.
No, yeah, there's definitely there are certain things that can happen that would definitely disprove my belief. So I'll take it two parts. One, what would the universe have to look like? And two, what events could happen on Earth? So for me, if the universe was eternal, that would probably disprove like my belief in God. If they proved that there was never a beginning to the universe, that would definitely disprove like a deistic God, in my opinion, and especially the Christian God. But in terms of like events on Earth, I mean, if the Prophet Muhammad came down and it's like brought everyone to heaven, all the Muslims to heaven, that would definitely disprove my Christianity to me 100%.
What would disprove just a God concept altogether?
I think if you could show that the universe was eternal, I think that would disprove God to me.
Large meteor strike, like that really, was very definitive, isn't going to do it. Like, I mean, because I'm just wondering if there's like a major event that could be like.
Why would, but there's been meteor strikes on Earth before. Why would that prove that there's no God?
Well, it would be evidence that he's not looking out for us, that's for sure.
Kinda.
I don't think that logically follows. I mean, you can say, yeah, it's a crappy situation, but I don't think that logically follows it. Like if meteor strike happened, I wouldn't say, oh, wow, yeah, there's no God out there. No.
And you got about 48 hours, you know what I mean, before it's covered up and we're gone, and you got about 48 hours to think about it, and one of your head isn't going to be like...
An extinction level event that you witnessed would fit right into your idea of divinity.
Yeah.
If there was an extinction level event from natural causes where there's like no divinity whatsoever, then yeah, that would definitely disprove a God to me.
Well, you added divinity into that. How would that?
He said no divinity. He said no divinity.
Yeah, as in like
like a natural thing.
It's not Armageddon. It's not a Christian Armageddon, right? Like it's not Jesus coming back. That's not the source of the extinction event. Then yeah, that would disprove it, because in my belief,
if a comet hit the planet, if a comet hit the planet,
don't asteroids hit the planet like daily or pass by us daily?
Well, no.
But if a comet hit the planet, that's a completely different thing. If a comet hits the planet, you're going to be, you're going to witness suffering in a biblical way.
For a very short
Listen,
time.
I don't think I'll have time to really gather my like theological conclusions from a comet hitting the Earth. But yeah, sure. If a comet
You're kidding me?
out,
There's gonna be a lot of people praying. I mean, that's the thing. Do you start praying in that moment or not? That's what I'm saying.
Does it
if
matter?
you're asking me, I mean, well, that's a different question. Yeah, I'm going to start praying. Yeah, for sure.
Well, does it matter?
That's what I'm. That's.
Nah.
I think you guys are asking like different questions. Like,
No. What I mean is really my question mostly to people that I wonder about their differing positions on this topic is, does it matter?
Does prayer matter?
How do I see that it matters to me? What would a change in my idea of the way reality works cause a change in, the things that matter to me?
Well, to be fair, you were only asking him what would convince him. So
yeah,
that's what he answered.
Yeah.
It was
what made you guys atheists? Was it the Bible or was it
mind
science?
that would turn you around and absolutely definitively that day right now I seen this, holy shit, God isn't real, this is fucking all the evidence that I ever didn't see, this is it. I just didn't know if there was ever like ever one of those moments that like obviously hasn't happened, but if there was something that you came across, this is it, and that was the question, really.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if I believe that Jesus is going to come back before the sun absorbs the earth and stuff like that, and the earth is no longer. So if a natural event happened that wiped out humanity and it wasn't divine, then yeah, that would completely disprove my beliefs.
Yeah, you'd be disappointed.
It's fair, dude. I'm glad you can some people wouldn't even concede that at all. You know what I mean? They would give God credit for that comment or whatever, right? Like that's yeah.
Well, every single claim needs a litmus test. Everyone who has a belief, you need to there has to be a scenario that would convince you out of those beliefs. If you don't, then it's pointless to even debate them.
You would think.
So has there?
That's true. We had a guy in here.
Has there been a scenario Has there been a scenario in the real world that bolsters or confirms your beliefs that you've seen?
So, I mean, you're asking me. So I would say the resurrection of Jesus Christ is historically reliable, and then just like the rise of Christianity after that just gives credence to.
Wait a second. Wait a second.
My question was.
He said bolster. So
is there anything
don't use the resurrection
in your lifetime, in your experience of this reality, not I'm
asking in the same sentence. He's asking in the same instance. Is there anything that's absolutely set it in stone for you in your lifetime right now? For you, what has set it in stone for you?
Yeah, no, there's no phenomenon that I've observed in my lifetime that has confirmed God to me, the same way that there's no observed right now phenomenon that confirms macro evolution, because it happens over a long time, for example. There's things I observe in the universe that I think point to God, but an event or a miraculous event happening to me, no, it hasn't happened.
My question is, does the existence of all of the different subsets of Christianity all existing simultaneously that conflict with one another, in addition to all just the other hundreds and thousands of religions that exist and have existed in history, does that give you any disturbance to your faith, or give you any pause at all in your belief in your Christianity?
So I would say that the many denominations are a little conflated because of Protestantism, which is in the last 100 years. For the most part, there's not too many flavors of Christianity for most of the history of the religion. But yeah, for sure, definitely the fact that there are other Christians out there that believe very, very different things than me, who profess Christ, who think they're going to heaven, and they're just as assured of their beliefs as me. That definitely keeps me up at night, and that's why I read my Bible. That's why I look up the history of these things. It's an interesting thing. It's the same way there's a million different creation stories out there. Does that make you less certain of evolutionary theory? It's no. It's it's just another thing to study and another thing to just test competing claims.
Oh, well, I'm not sure if that's the best analogy. There's a whole lot more evidence for evolution than there is for any creation story.
I just think it makes it really hard for me to even if you just go back in our own history, how hard it is to tell a story from 300 years ago and with accuracy. To say that you're going to tell a story from 2,000 years ago with accuracy is just, it's very, very hard.
You don't believe in any historical figures from antiquity?
Not that I don't believe in any. I'll tell it to you like this. If you sat in a room of 50 people and you started in one ear and told a story around and had it come around from those 50 people, and by the time that story comes back around to you, do you think that paragraph that you started at the beginning of that is going to come back to you word for word?
No, it wouldn't.
That's what I think has happened to the Bible over the last 2,000 years. Interpretation after interpretation after interpretation. How do you know that the words that you're reading are actual accounts? That's the problem I have with it.
So we can actually know, like, the historical reliability of some of, like, the manuscripts that we have. We know that they were written within the lifetime of Jesus or within 2 generations of Jesus. Jesus, and by the standards of antiquity,
the earliest thing we have is from about 150.
There are passages from Mark that date back to as early as 37 AD.
Has anyone seen the documentary? I think it's called 47.
No.
And it's about the really the misinterpretation of portions of the Bible, specifically Leviticus, where they added the word homosexual into the Bible for the first time. And
there is no Hebrew word for homosexual,
right.
But it's very clear that it's saying man lays with man.
Right. And in 1947, the idea of homosexuality as a biblical idea of sin was introduced to the culture. And it's stuck.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Yeah. And also the Bible does not say that it's wrong for women to be with women.
It actually does say that in Leviticus and in Romans for women to lay with women.
1947.
No, it doesn't. But you want to give me that?
So wait a minute. So is that
passage?
But wait a minute, you can't have, the atheists can't have two scenarios, because atheists say, oh my God, there's been 2,000 years of homophobia due to Christianity, and now you're going to say that it was added in 1947. So which one is it? Were the 2,000 years of homophobia Christian related, or is it a recent phenomenon of homophobia?
It's a recent phenomenon.
Yeah.
If you read all the early church fathers, they will tell you about, sexual immortality, and they will tell you everything about homosexuality that, is laid out in the Gospels.
Are you sure that they're not pre-1947 telling you these things that you believe?
Early church fathers are pre-1947.
Early church fathers, what does that mean?
What I'm saying is that this is not a new interpretation. This is an interpretation that existed even within the early church about sexual immortality as it pertains to, incest, gays, lesbians, and so forth.
You just said that there is no Hebrew word for homosexual or Aramaic word for
You can still describe the act. There's no word for homosexual. Homosexual is a new word.
Right. So is the idea of homosexuality being a sin new as well?
The word is new. The idea is not.
What did the Bible mean? What did Leviticus mean?
The King James Version doesn't even use the word homosexuality. It just says man lies with man like man lies with woman. I think it's crystal clear on what it's talking about.
I applaud you, because you know how this got sparked. Wait. Do you know how this got sparked? It's because interpretation and because of how people are interpreting this thing, and you're talking about 2,000 years, and you're making it. There's serious issues with this story.
Leviticus talks about sexual perversion.
There's tons of interpretation debates out there, but I don't think anyone debates that the Bible is very anti-gay, and I affirm that.
Dude, you are the epitome of what this Go watch this documentary.
But these new age documentaries, that Jesus is a copy of Horus and stuff like that. They're all largely debunked.
No. That's not what it says. That's not what it's talking about. the ideas that Leviticus was portraying were about sexual perversions that have nothing to do with the natural occurrence of homosexuality. But it's Leviticus like raping children. Or I'm sorry, that's F1 me. I totally forgot where I was.
LA.
But you know what I'm saying.
You said 47.
I don't even think it's an interesting topic to debate anyway. Just because
I'm sure you don't.
I just don't know what you accomplish by proving that. I mean, Christianity. I affirm that Christianity is a homophobic religion.
It doesn't just stop there, though.
No, you're homophobic, and you've attached yourself to a new idea of homophobic.
Whoa. No, it doesn't. You can't assert that to them. You can't throw that label on a person.
I was going to say, it doesn't stop there with the problems. Like, there's, like, age issues in the Bible, too, with things that they were doing, like, that we do not agree with right now. And there's no way that you'd be able to practice these things that went on in a book that was written 2,000 years ago in today's world. How do you justify those things that are written in today's worldviews? They do not
basically
fit.
Just this. I agree with what you're saying right now, and it's based on basically a misinterpretation of ancient Mosaic law, because you are right, the laws that were stated in the Old Testament, they're not meant to be done today. They were for specific people at a very specific time.
God doesn't change.
God does not change, but he can change rules if he wants to. So
God doesn't change,
they can be times of the ages as well. So like dietary laws for pork during that time are local to that people and to that region and to that time, which are not going to apply today.
So who gave that interdiction to God's law?
It's a pretty basic understanding of Judaism.
Yeah, so is atheism.
Go to prophets. You kind of have to go to prophets who have brought the word to you, and then you have to believe prophets that brought a word to you, and then you have to put faith that somebody's not basically dragging you down the road to where they want to go, and they actually have the word of God, right?
That's a different issue. I was just addressing your claim that we can't possibly follow some of these laws that are stated in the Old Testament today, and that's true because they're not meant to be followed today.
Like mixed fabrics?
Because they're fucking illegal.
It's because illegal to follow Old Testament law. There are Hasidic Jews out there that follow Old Testament law. They're not breaking the law.
Yeah, but some of those acts in there are absolutely illegal under law of the land, and religion is not going to supersede that, and that's where the buck stops. Actually, really,
you guys kind of keep changing the goalposts of what I have to address. Now it's religion and politics. I mean, this isn't really following a rational or a cohesive line of thought.
Hey guys. It's 2:00.
It's fair.
I think
it's 2:00.
I want to say thank you.
It's 5:00 here.
Sorry,
dog. I appreciate actually conversating.
Please follow me. It's been a wonderful night. I got it.
Thank you. I like what you're doing. I like that you got education behind you too, and you're not just up here flapping. You've done it. It sounds like you've done this for a while, and you're calm and collective, and that spreads out into the room. We're all able to have that conversation too. You're chill, so it's chill. You know what I mean?
I appreciate that. That's part of my goal. That is part
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Catch me.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks,
thanks again, everybody.
Believe in reality. I felt you sort of reeling me in, Phil. Yeah. I felt you reeling me in a little bit. I appreciate that because sometimes I get passionate about it, and I don't want to be. I don't want to make people wrong. I want to have that conversation where we can.
Sog, I appreciate you too for staying up here and running the gauntlet. It ain't easy. I'm sure it isn't.
It was. This has been over 6 hours. This one. It's just like.
Oh gosh.
As long as you guys are having fun. I do 2 types of shows, right? And it depends on the audience. Sometimes I'll do one-on-ones, one-on-twos, but when it starts going like this, then it's you guys. You're all. You're having fun, and I just want to make sure there's no arguments and stuff, and then
moderator Phil
being fair, and Then I'm in
surprisingly, for a conversation where there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 atheists and 1 Christian, it didn't sound like too many people were like talking over each other. So that was cool.
Yeah,
or attacking. Really, it was a talk and respond type of thing, and or even question.
I appreciate your ability to be in the conversation.
I will say you missed about 30 minutes before.
Yeah.
So thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Phil.
Come back another time. Everybody else who's listening, be kind to each other. Go vote. That's important right now, okay?
Very much. Thank you, Phil.
Take care.
Have a great night.